Okay, here is an example of what you might do for your blues composition. Notice that I've given it a title and I've put in my name with a bluesy nickname. You don't have to do the nickname, but do put your name as composer. Now I have added in my melody, so my melody is all on the top line. This is just what came with the template, so that you don't need to do anything with the bottom two lines, the piano part, at all. So what I have done is I have put in my notes according to the blues scale, and I have just looked at a few things. One of the main things to look at is having a few rests here and there. If you don't have any kind of change in the rhythm, and it's just crotchets, and maybe a few quavers, and you never have any rests, then the piece is not really going to sound bluesy. So there should be some good rhythmic variety, and to get rhythmic variety, have a mix of these crotchets, quavers, and I think down here I even have a single quaver, and some rests. Okay, and basically, you only need to use those three things: crotchets, quavers, and rests. You can use some syncopation. This is an example of syncopation where I used a quaver rest, and if you're ever wondering which one I've used, or which one you want to use, you can just click on it and you can see which one I've used. And for this one I've made syncopation by tying these two notes together by using this tie, and that just makes them last longer. I see if I can play just that for you. So that just made that little bit, just turn up my flute and turn down my piano. That made that little bit sort of hang on a little bit longer. So you want to make sure you have some rhythmic variety. The other thing to think about is your tonic note. C is your tonic note. And you want to make sure, you don't have to start on C, but you want to make sure that you come back to C, especially on the 4th bar, because that's the end of a 1, 2, 3, 4 bar phrase. Then on the 8th bar, I went crazy and used all C's. And then at the very end, you have some C's there. Now this will probably happen to you too, so I left it in there to show you. You can just grab it and drag it away. The other thing that might happen to you is MuseScore might rearrange your music a bit. All you have to do is choose something like that and delete it, or you might have to cut it. But that will just let MuseScore decide how to lay out your score a little more clearly. So don't be afraid if bars jump around back and forth. So we've got a variety of rhythms. We try and land on the tonic, or the other one is the dominant. So sometimes you'll see that I've landed on the dominant quite a lot. But basically C and G are our best friends, and that's what we want to center our piece around. I've used lots of different notes to come up with my melody, and I've tried to sort of use them in order. If you go back and look at the blues scale again, you'll see that there are about 7 different notes, with one I've repeated at the top. But you just want to use those notes. Sometimes you can jump around. It's interesting to jump around, but try and think about using them in the order that they appear, because that gives you a good line. Here's an example of a good line. So we have notes that are all in order on the blues scale, and then we have a little jump after there's a rest. So think about the line. Think about using notes that are pretty much next to each other on the blues scale. Repetition is a really good thing. So if you listen to mine, the first bar actually comes up again here, but there's a little bit of change. So repetition is good with a bit of variety. So I use this little motif as a little bit of a rallying cry throughout the piece. Not quite the same. I think I might even have one more in here over there. Here it is. So I've used the repetition of that idea, or a variation of that idea, to create interest in the piece. So I'll play the whole thing for you. That's the end of the first phrase. And to the second phrase here. End of the piece. So there's a little bit more syncopation at the end of the piece, and once again that's a tie, where you just choose the first note and click the tie button. I also like to see a little bit of space at the end, so that that C, or the G if you want to end on the dominant, has a little bit of space to ring out. I've even just used a little bit of repetition in here by repeating those two notes over and over just within the bar. So repetition can be a really good thing. Just make sure that it doesn't repeat exactly throughout the whole piece. So that's an example of one way that you can create your blues melody.